When you're in your action phase, yes, you have probably or hopefully a support system, but a lot of times you have to depend on your own willpower. Motivation towards the changes that need to be made will not always be there.
Hello and welcome to the Core Podcast. We're your hosts, Aline Keller.
And Shannon Polson.
I'm a precision nutrition certified coach.
And I'm a NASM certified personal trainer for over 13 years. We support women 30 years old and over to pursue health through realistic nutrition and fitness strategies. Our main passion is to help you find that smile when you look in the mirror, find freedom when you eat, and joy when moving your body.
Make sure to subscribe for your weekly dose of doable health tips, practical advice, and so much more. It's the health education you wish you'd had. So today we are back with another fitness podcast for you. This is talking about action and maintenance in exercise. And I am actually very curious because I don't know what we're talking about. This is going to be new for me as well. So Shannon is going to tell us all about action versus maintenance phase in exercise, and take it away.
All right. Well, I'm pretty excited about this one as when I was in college, I didn't really I didn't really realize all of the phases or stages that we have, whether it comes to exercise or just in general when you're looking to make a change in your life. So I just kind of want to start out with a little intro in a sense of if you're unaware of these phases, or how to get started or how to maintain any kind of change, I just want you to know and validate you that none of this is not your fault. So, not knowing what you shouldn't or should be eating is not your fault. Especially with rapid social media noise all around us, it's no wonder we're all confused about what is right or wrong. Grade school taught us to eat our grains and veggies and to drink plenty of water, but never touched base on creating a healthy relationship with food or how to handle emotional eating. And the same goes to fitness or working out. We weren't born to work out. Elementary school didn't tell us about hip hinges in a classroom setting, and middle and high school FIA teachers and coaches did not make proper exercise form and technique their main concern. I mean, I remember, and maybe you can too, Aileen, and I don't know how it's changed nowadays with kids being in school, but with females and strength training, we weren't really taught about form and technique. If anything, females in the gym setting was kind of odd. You know, we were supposed to be out running and doing the cardio and going to dance line and that type of thing. So hopefully that's switched over time, but just going back, none of that was their main concern.
It still
So not
isn't. It still
what
isn't, to be honest. And I remember,
okay.
like you're saying, I remember that, going to the gym, I loved lifting weights. I loved being there, but it wasn't the norm. And I feel like it still is a very male space.
Yeah.
So much so that there were gyms for women, right? Like this is a female exclusive gym, and that still exists just because, we weren't, it didn't really feel like it was our space, right? And in school, that still happens. I see with my kids. My 9-year-old boy, he's had one teacher who has taught proper form
Mhm.
in a specific set of exercises, but that's just one in, and he wasn't a gym teacher. So that's not a gym teacher teaching. This just is regular teacher having like a side activity with the kids. So yeah, this is something that, we don't know. It's not because we're incompetent. We don't know because we weren't taught, and we have to find this information for ourselves.
Exactly, 100%. So again, just validating that none of this is your fault. Um, so basically not having a 100% perfect grasp on your health lifestyle, again, is not your fault. But
That's what
learning
we're here
how,
for.
oh, welcome to the core. Um, But learning how to navigate healthier decisions, making time for yourself, creating those short term goals for long term success, and the key of all of it, remaining consistent. So, all of these moving parts is in your control. So, that's how, or what we're going to kind of talk about today as we move into these different phases. And again, these phases can be in exercise or in other areas of your life as well. To again know that none of this is your fault and that we're here to give you the information for you to progress forward for long term success. So, in this episode, we're going to chat about the action and the maintenance phase in fitness. But again, these phases can roll over into other parts of your life, whether it's a nutrition goal, a journaling goal, or even an emotional self talk goal. One reminder as we head into this episode is this: working with these phases is not always going to be easy, and it's not going to happen overnight. So as we begin to dig in deeper, you'll understand that this one episode is not the magic answer, but we're hoping that it'll assist you to maintain and stay on track to help you understand how important long term consistency is with building a healthier lifestyle that you desire. So if you're looking for that overnight quick fix or that magic bean, this episode and really this entire podcast is probably not for you.
Nope.
um, so we're here to establish some lifelong habits. So let's get started in your action and maintenance phases. So here's a few things that you need to know. There are 6 different stages to change. So I'm going to touch base on phases 1 through 3, and then I'm going to focus more on phase 4 and 5, which are the action and maintenance phases. So phase 1 is your pre-contemplation phase. In this pre-contemplation phase, people are not thinking seriously about changing and are not interested in any kind of help. People in this stage tend to defend their current bad habits and really don't feel that it's a big problem to them. Phase 2 is contemplation. So, in the contemplation stage, people are more aware of the personal consequences of their bad habit and they spend time thinking about their problem. So, although they consider the possibility of changing, they tend to shy away from actually changing. In this stage, people are here and there, they're more or less weighing out the pros and cons of quitting or modifying their behavior. Phase 3, which is the preparation or the determination phase, is where people have made up their mind or even have begun making a commitment towards making a change. Their motivation for changing is reflected by statements such as, I've got to do something about this, or something has to change. This phase, people generally are now taking small steps towards change and gathering information on how to do so. So, those first 3 phases are pretty important to understand: the pre contemplation, contemplation, moving into that preparation and determination phase. So let's say we've gotten through those 3 phases. Now we're going to work on phase 4 and 5. Phase 4 is the action phase. So this is the stage where people believe they have the ability to change their behavior and are actively involved in taking steps to change their bad behavior by using a variety of different techniques. Now, all of these techniques might not work for them right away. You know, maybe they know that they need to move more, so they've joined a few exercise classes. Maybe they joined a Zumba class and they found Zumba isn't for them. They joined a strength training course and they decided that they really like lifting weights for their upper body. So they're using a variety of techniques to kind of figure out what works for them and what they enjoy, but they're being active about it. So, even into nutrition, whether it's to eat one more fruit or veggie per day, or again, to go for a 30-minute walk 3 times per week, they are aware of the changes that need to be made and are being active. So this part I remember being in college and thinking, wow, really? That's interesting. That's a long time. So the action phase lasts about 6 months, but in a lower spectrum, it can literally be as short as 1 hour. So as it can go back to taking time to cut up fresh food to have for later, or taking the time for physical activity, that's kind of how it tailors back to it can be as short as 1 hour. But that 1 hour a day that you're working towards that active goal needs to last about 6 months or even more. So being active towards these changes for 6 months is where the action terms comes into play, of course. This is a stage when people need to depend on their own willpower. So I think that's a very, very important sentence is when you're in your action phase, yes, you have probably or hopefully a support system, but a lot of times you have to depend on your own willpower. Motivation towards the changes that need to be made will not always be there. Ailini, are you jazzed to get out of bed every single morning and go work out? I mean, you probably are,
Wouldn't
but
that
are
be
there
great?
some days where you're not, right? You're like,
And that's the thing, right? We
"Mm,
talk, people talk so much about motivation, but I think motivation is super important because it's what gives you the impulse, right? It's kind of like riding a bike, right? Motivation is that first push,
mhm,
but what you need for the bike to keep going, it's not motivation. You need the discipline, right? And it's really, that is so important for people to understand that for you to stay in this action, for you to keep doing something, motivation is not going to carry you, right?
mhm,
It's you have to have the discipline. And this is funny because we're actually going to talk about this a little bit in the next podcast,
mhm,
but you do have to have the discipline to make certain decisions and to stick with it when you don't have motivation. Because listen, I don't care what social media says. Anyone that says that they're motivated every single time to do every single thing, I call BS. It's like
mhm,
brushing your teeth. You don't brush your teeth because you're like, yeah, I have to brush my teeth. Like, no, you brush your teeth because you don't want to have cavities, right? And you
mhm,
want to have nice breath. So it's the same with nutrition, with fitness, right? I think that we are more motivated than the average because we
mhm.
enjoy this, right? Like, this is what we do. This is our work. We're in this industry. So we like it. So we are more motivated. But I mean, nobody wants this every day.
No, no. And I can't even tell you, and we'll actually go over one strategy to be successful in fitness. I mean, the same goes to me. There's plenty of days, especially now in these winter months, where I'd rather hop on the couch and eat
Yeah.
popcorn than work out. But you just do it because you have the willpower and you have the discipline, and it's a habit.
And you
Yeah.
know how good it is for you. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
I actually felt this so deeply right now. So I'm coming out of a surgery. Maybe that's a podcast for another day. So I got breast implants put in, and I spent 6 weeks without doing anything. At 6 weeks, I was cleared. Now I had been cleared for like light walking and stuff like that, but arm movement in general, like, it's extremely limited. I didn't start working out until 6.5 weeks, but just I felt so strongly how much exercising is good for me. I have anxiety. I'm an anxious person. My anxiety was rampant. I couldn't sleep. Like, it was just, and I'm super happy I did it. I would do it all over again. 6 weeks in a lifetime is nothing.
Mhm.
At the same time, it was a very easy to see, reminder that this is really, really good for me. So also we get to that point, right, where you say, sure, I'm not motivated, but I know how good this is for me. I
Mhm.
know how good I feel when I put in the effort to exercise, when I eat in a way that is good for me. I know how good that is for me. So I'm going to do it because I'm an adult. And I'm going to make better choices.
Yeah.
I'm not just going to choose what I feel like doing. I'm not a teenager anymore, right?
Yeah. Which is why adulting is so hard sometimes.
Yes.
Because you
Yes,
just
it is.
know. You just know. And you nailed it. I mean, and I tell my clients that all the time. And even myself, you just have to remind yourself of how good you're going to feel when you're done with that workout, or when you eat those veggies instead of all the carbs, the unnecessary carbs.
Yeah.
So, but when the struggles are real and the excuses creep up, you must overcome the negative thoughts and keep moving forward. So, when it comes to nutrition, let's say you have that goal to cut up fresh fruits and veggies for your week so you can consume more of them during your workday. So let's say one week you don't cut up all the fresh fruit and veggies that you wanted, but you have enough to kind of get you through a couple of days. That's still that's still very strong willpower, because you have that momentum, you're still moving forward. The excuse of, I don't have time, I'm tired, I didn't go grocery shopping, all of those easy excuses that we can make to cut you back, you still kept moving forward. So you had that willpower, you moved forward throughout that struggle. And then the same goes with the fitness. So if you had that goal of exercising or going for a walk for 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 times a day, probably don't want to do that. We'll go with 30 minutes, 3 times a week. Let's say that one day you only walk 15 minutes versus that 30 minutes. That's okay. You are still being successful as you're still taking action. You are not dismissing your goals just because things got hard. Because here's the deal, life gets hard for everyone. Everyone that is sane enough to know that they may need to make small changes for a better life, and they have a full plate too. But the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is they establish that habit. They have that willpower, that determination. And that's why this action phase is so incredibly important. You will learn the struggles, you will feel the struggles, but you must keep moving forward. You don't have to go fast. You can go really slow if you want. Maybe it's 9 months, maybe it's a year, maybe it's a whole lifetime. You think that you're in that action phase. You continue to find those actions, those habits that work for you to make those habits stick. So there is a downside of the action phase, because unfortunately, this phase has the highest amount of efforts of quitting and are the greatest risk factors for relapse. And relapse is actually a phase after the maintenance phase. You can be in your action phase for 6 months and doing all of the things you think you're maintaining, and then all of a sudden shit goes to pot. You relapse. You're literally back to either your pre-contemplation phase or you're back to the preparation and determining phase. Some people even go into contemplation phase. They're just like, screw it, I'm done, I can't do it anymore. Let's not be one of those people. Let's be successful with our phases. So one strategy to make sure that you stay on track is to use short-term goals and short-term rewards to keep that motivation. We just had a rant about our motivation. Motivation isn't always going to be there. We get that. But if you can give yourself short-term rewards, that's going to help you to keep moving forward. Now, your rewards don't necessarily need to be food related or even money related. This is my reward. I say, Shannon, you just got to start out with 10 minutes. And then you got to just keep going after that. And if you finish your workout, you get to light your favorite candles. I love candles. I love how my house looks in the evening when all my candles are lit. I love how it smells. I love the ambiance of it. It brings me joy. So if I can finish my workout, I get to light all my candles. Okay. Friday night comes and I finished my run. Go have your favorite craft beer. Maybe you do celebrate with food, but it's not so much where you're losing track of the goal that you had initially. Maybe you do go out for a cup of coffee with a friend and maybe it is money related, but feel free to have those short-term goals as well as those short-term rewards to keep you moving forward. And then
This
next
is
is
so important. I think I'm going to interrupt you because I
no
think this
problem.
is so important, because we have these, it's just somewhere along the road. I don't know where. Hopefully, I'll figure it out before my kids
Mm,
learn this wrong, right? But somewhere along the road, we learn that rewards and self-care, right? Self-care is a lot of times a rewards that it's food related or money related, right? Like you have to spend a ton of money, you have to eat. And people go on these like, okay, this 21-day program, this 6-week program, this whatever it is. And then they have the famous last meal, right? Except it's the first meal. Like, okay, I finished this. Now I
mhm.
can go and eat, a pizza and 2 tubs of ice cream. And it's like, that's not a reward. That's
Yeah.
not a reward. So this is really a mindset shift to like, what would be a reward for me? A big reward is, you do this, you reach this. I buy myself a new book. Now,
Mm,
granted, I buy books almost every day. So, it may not seem like a reward for some people, but I usually buy like 90-cent books, $1 books. And then my rewards are the books that are from the authors that I really love, the really good books. And these are like $7, $8 books. Still not a ton of money. But to me, it's like, okay, this book is a reward for X, Y, and Z. Or, hey, I don't watch television. I don't like television. So sometimes there's like this movie or this show that I'm interested in watching. That's a reward. Like, okay, you get this done. You're going to give yourself a couple hours, such and such day, where you're just going to sit on the couch
mhm, mhm.
and you're going to watch these things, right? So rewards can be a lot simpler than we like to make them, right? And I love this point that you made because, just find something. And if your rewards are heavily food related, you can even like give yourself little gifts, right? Like
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
a new workout top, maybe,
Mhm.
I don't know what it is. I mean, people are different. I don't know what you're like. That I don't know, maybe you're into makeup, give yourself a new mascara, whatever it is. But this is so important that it can be something small. It can be something that just is special to you. It doesn't have to be like this big deal. Trip to
Exactly.
Europe. I mean, you know,
I mean, that would
I
be
do a
great.
lot for a trip to Europe, so that could be a big goal.
Lots of workouts.
How about this? 10 workouts and you get to go to Europe. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah. No, it's true. The reward system is definitely a thing that helps keep you on track for sure. And just find what works for you. Don't let it get out of hand, like you said. Just keep it easy and simple. And maybe when you hit a bigger milestone or a bigger goal, maybe you've been putting aside $5 every week because you've completed 5 workouts. Now all of a sudden you have a couple $100 in your account. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
if you've been working out consistently for 6 months and you dropped a pant size, go buy a new pair of jeans. Like,
exactly.
that's exciting. Celebrate yourself, but it not every time it doesn't need to be extravagant. Um, so then the next kind of strategy to make sure that you don't relapse is to analyze the behavior change that you've made and all the efforts that you've made and use this as a way to enhance your self-confidence. So when we talk in our minds or whatnot, we all have a voice in our mind. Even when we talk poorly about someone else or about ourselves, our brain doesn't really know the difference of who you're talking to. It just knows that you're talking negatively. So we've all heard this. You would not talk to yourself how you would talk to your best friend. So let's maybe analyze that behavior change first. You've done really, really well. Maybe you haven't quite reached a goal in a realistic time like you were hoping, but you've still made all the efforts to change. Let that enhance your self confidence and your self talk. So analyze your behavior change that you've made throughout these last couple of months in this action phase. And then lastly, and this one is really important, is to be open to receiving help and seek support from others. A very, very important element. This is a little off the trail, but my business is almost 3 years old, and it hasn't been until recently that I've actually seeked out help from others. I'm not looking for help from someone that's 100 steps ahead of me. I'm asking for help and seeking help from others that are 10 steps ahead of me on how do I run a successful online business. The same can be for you too. Maybe Karen in human resources did XYZ and she had a lot of success. And while not all of that will resonate with you, maybe she can give you a few tips. Maybe there's a reliable and credible resource online, and you just really like her attitude. Let that be a resource. But ask for help. There's no shame in asking for help. So then, hopefully, with all these short term goals that you've made, celebrating all of your efforts and then seeking help and support from others, you will then move to phase 5, which is your maintenance phase. So, maintenance involves being able to successfully avoid any temptations to return to the bad habit. Now, this can be daily, weekly, monthly, or honestly for the rest of your life. We're all going to have temptations when it comes to eating or a lack thereof. Same with fitness or a lack thereof. I guarantee you that you will regress at one point in time. You will regress. You will take a couple of steps back, and that is okay. That is normal. We will get into that in just a little bit here, um, but you're successfully most days avoiding any temptations to return to a bad habit. I love peanut butter M&Ms. I do. Typically around a certain time of the month, but I've learned to not maybe go overboard. Returning to a bad habit would be eating the entire bag. Have I done that recently in my adult life? 110%. But I refuse to let that be my bad habit of choice long term. You return back to that maintenance phase, those action steps that you work so hard for. Okay. So even when you're busy and you have very little time, you're tired or you're in an irritable mood, you still have that habit. You're still able to maintain cutting up those fresh fruits and veggies a week ahead. You're still able to maintain walking those 30 minutes 3 times per week. So, the goal of the maintenance stage is to maintain this new status quo. People in this stage tend to remind themselves of how much progress they have made and how good it makes them feel, just like we kind of chatted about. So it might go back to that person. Your goal of walking 30 minutes 3 times per week saw massive improvements in their sleep patterns. They have way less knee pain, and now their jeans even feel a little bit looser. So, this motivation and positive change has now enhanced this person to begin strength training now 3 times per week on top of their walks. So, you can notice that waterfall effect of that positivity. They're seeing the importance, and that, yes, even though they're busy, they get tired, they have that poor attitude on some days, they maintain that habit. They see the positive outcomes. People in the maintenance phase consistently reformulate the rules of their lives, that they are acquiring new skills to deal with life to avoid that relapse. Because what worked for you 5 years ago, maybe even a year ago, may not work for you today, and that is okay. So you need to consistently be evolving and making sure that you have those new skills to again avoid that relapse. These people are able to anticipate the situations in which a relapse could occur and prepare coping strategies in advance. They remain aware that when they are striving for success, everything is worthwhile and meaningful, even when it gets hard. They are patient with themselves. They recognize that it takes a while to let go of old behavior patterns and to practice the new ones until they are second nature to them. There's a reason why the action phase is 6 months long. And I know that we had an episode, you more so about New Year's resolutions, and I loved it because I'm grumpy about New Year's resolution, great. The calendar turned, a page, and all of a sudden, all these people their whole life is going to change. I think it goes back to working in a gym for almost 12 years. I mean, how busy we were on January 2nd until like March 1st. And then all of a sudden, like, it was back to normal again. And we loved it as trainers. We're like, oh, can't wait for March or April because it's just back to like our regular crew, our regular crowd. Now it's because they didn't establish all those habits. They weren't aware or realized how long it takes that action phase to really, really sink in.
And that
Um,
results don't come as quickly as we want them to, right?
no, they don't. They don't. Please
We
keep that
need
in
to
mind.
keep going.
Yes. The action phase, it's not like a magic wand type of strategy. It is hard work. It takes commitment and it takes consistency. So even when you take 2 steps back, No, you keep going until you're 3 steps ahead again. So, as you progress through your own stages of change, it can be very helpful to reevaluate your progress in moving up and down through these different stages. So, even in the course of one day, you may go through several different stages of change. So, I'm definitely raising my hand over here. I'm a female, and if there was like an emoji list that mirrored my daily experience, it'd be full of faces of happy, sad, frustrated, hungry, motivated. The list goes on. So even though you have different phases throughout the stages, you also experience this throughout your day. But that's okay because we're all human. And remember that it's normal and natural to regress. And it's okay to fall back a previous stage, but you just kind of keep going. This is all a normal part of making changes in your behavior. But you also need to remember that because you regress does not mean that you give up. So, all in all, why is the action and maintenance phase so important to your fitness or to your health journey? And why do you need to know about it? Well, mainly because this takes time. I think that we've really let our audience know that we're not an overnight quick fix fad type of podcast. We're in it for the long haul. We're in it because we know that all of this takes a lot of time, and we hopefully are 10 steps ahead of you. So let us help you get to where you want to go. And I also want you to know that you have your entire life to make changes and to create the life that you want to live and love. So again, what worked for you 5 years ago may not work for you today. What worked for Karen in human resources might not work for you. And just because you made that New Year's resolution and the calendar turned a page does not mean that your goals will all of suddenly be set in stone where you're able to achieve and even maintain those habits. So you must create your habits, habits that will work for you and that stick. So think of your action phase. So know that once you've gotten past the first 3 stages, which again are the pre-contemplation, contemplation, and then preparation, and you're ready to commit to change, you must remain consistent. The action phase alone is 6 months. This means you actively, for 6 months, need to commit to putting in the work and remain consistent even when times get tough. To then even begin to move into the maintenance phase, as the maintenance phase says it all, you must maintain. And while I mentioned before that it's pretty much a guarantee that you'll regress a few steps, as again, this is completely normal, you must remain consistent while in the maintenance phase with all the action steps you took during the previous 6 months in the action phase. So very, very repetitive podcast, I'm sure. You've heard me say action phase a lot. You've heard me say maintenance phase a lot, commitment, hard work, consistency, because that's what it's all about. So if I can keep repeating myself, get that in your brain, keep
We'll do
saying this
it.
to yourself. So that is the difference between the action and the maintenance phase, and why it's so important for you to understand how long it takes to make that change that sticks.
And like Shannon said, this spills out into everything in your life. So any goal that you have, just keep in mind that it's not overnight. You need a little bit of time. And right before we finish, I'm going to leave you with what's happening next week. We are going to talk about getting healthy when you don't have the support to do it. We've all been there. You have a goal, you want to do something. No one's going to do it with you. So what happens then? So tune in next week to talk about that.